call a Secretary of Cabinet, but also Director General of all Director Generals. DG Baleni is Director General in the Presidency, but DG, Head of Foresight in our country. Good evening, members of the media. Good evening, members at home. Government wishes to express its appreciation to all South Africans who exercise their constitutional right to protest peacefully and responsibly during today's migration-related demonstration. We commend citizen, community leaders, organizers, civil society formation, religious leaders, and law enforcement agencies for their commitment to peace, restraint, and respect for the rule of law throughout the country. While policing operations have been effective thus far, with demonstrations remaining largely peaceful across the country, police have responded to isolated incidents of looting and attempted looting. Those who chose to exploit the marches to commit criminal acts will face the full might of the law. Police will continue to identify, arrest, and prosecute all those responsible for criminal conduct during the activities. The peaceful conduct displayed today reflects the strength of our democracy and demonstrates that South Africans can voice their concerns firmly and lawfully while respecting the rights and dignity of others. Government acknowledges that many citizens have genuine concerns about lack of economic opportunities, irregular migration, service delivery, the challenges of border management, and general public safety. These concerns deserve to be heard and addressed systematically through lawful and democratic processes. Government particularly welcomes the fact that most participants rejected violence, rejected vigilantism, rejected to intimidate others, rejected provocation, looting, and rejected to damage properties of other people. Such actions that are not wanted in our communities have no place in a constitutional democracy and undermine the goal of safety and economic prosperity that communities seek to achieve. As government, we wish to reaffirm our unwavering commitment to implementing the comprehensive approach for migration management as announced by President Ramaphosa. This 5-point plan focuses on strengthening the enforcement of immigrations and labor laws, securing our borders, improving migration management systems, closing legislative and policy gaps, and working with countries across the continent to address migration challenges in a coordinated manner. Government continues to make substantial progress with the deportation and repatriation of foreign nationals across the affected provinces. To date, the latest statistics indicate that we have successfully repatriated 4,286 foreign nationals and deported further 419 in the past few days. We want to assure all South Africans that government will continue to actively manage migration through lawful, coordinated, and constitutional measures. Our objectives remains clear. A South Africa where migration laws are respected and enforced, where borders are secured, where communities are safe, where businesses compete fairly, and where human dignity and constitutional values are upheld. Government will continue to intensify efforts against criminality, corruption, human trafficking, labor exploitation, and all forms of illegality associated with irregular migration, while ensuring that enforcement actions are carried out within the framework of the Constitution and the law. We call upon all South Africans to remain calm, reject misinformation and xenophobia, and continue working with government and law enforcement agencies to build safe, stable, cohesive communities. We will manage migration in a manner that protects our national interests, promotes the rule of law, and advances the values upon which our democracy has been founded. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the feedback to the nation on what transpired, but also the plans that you have outlined. Colleagues, let me invite questions from the floor, and I will later on take the questions that are sent virtually on our platforms. Let me recognize the names in this way. I note your hand, I will note the second hand, and the third hand in the middle. Then those names in that order. You'll introduce yourself, the media house, and then your questions.
Traditional objects through those protests. That was something that we saw. We also saw in some demonstrations that there was still that issue of people going to individuals, asking them to provide as well certain documentation. How is the state going to put, in confidence, particularly to people that, that they've got this situation under control? Another question I wanted to ask was, we've heard March and March saying that they will continue demonstrating every Thursday up until they can see, a proactive response from government. Your response to that, do we have the budget for it? I know that there is that amount that has been allocated to continuously monitor these operations. There was also the issue of, now that June 30th has come and gone, perhaps my next question is not so much about the rhetoric, but perhaps maybe just the social cohesion. How do we come out of the kind of rhetoric that we've heard today, the discourse that we've heard today, and see communities once again together? There are certainly some individuals that are still very much afraid from what they have seen, and even hearing from organizers saying that they will continue to intensify these protests. And then just very lastly, the operations on the ground, managing some of those demonstrations, but I think the true test will perhaps be overnight. We're really seeing a lot of demonstrations overnight, areas like Mpumalanga. We also know that in Durban, Claremont, it was quite violent in those areas. Can you just talk to us about what we know? Anyone has been arrested in those particular incidents where it wasn't sporadic, but it was more than opportunistic, it was criminal?
Thank you.
My name is Samke Lay, Marcelo from the South African Broadcasting Corporation. My question is to the ministers. There were incidents across the country, particularly when you go to Pimville, you go to Germiston, a Mavenda family and a Tonga family were confused for being foreign nationals, and we are seeing this confusion where those who are not predominantly Zulu speaking, who are Chivenda, Chitonga, Sipedi speaking, and are presumably dark like myself, are presumed to be from across the borders of South Africa. What are you doing in order to protect those who may have the features and the physical characteristics of those who may not similarly be known as from the borders of this country, as we've seen in Chivenda, in Germiston, with those particular Chitonga and Chivenda speaking people, and the daily person being confused for being foreign nationals. Then, on the issue of the deployment of the resources, we've seen that the state does have the capacity. Then what is stopping government from making sure that in every corner, in every street of this country, there is presence of law enforcement agencies in order to protect the residents of the country, as we've seen and shown the true might of the security apparatus of the state that we've seen today. The president also held a meeting with the male organizers of this March on March protest. What was the content of that particular meeting that the president had with these three men yesterday evening? And why was a particular lady, whom has been seen to be at the forefront of this particular march from when they started protesting in Eddington Primary School left out of this particular meeting? Is it because she went to see the predecessor in Guadalajara, or she spoke at a political rally of a certain opposition, the official opposition party of this particular country? Do you also believe that there has been a third force behind these particular protests? Particularly noting that at some point you had the Israelis saying that Africa must be divided and South Africa must be the first point of call. Are you suspecting that this is the work of the CIA and Mossad in retaliation to the ICJ case that South Africa brought against the crimes against humanity by Israel? Is the third force alive and kicking, trying to dethrone the government and showing that the South African public are in disarray and fighting amongst themselves? Thank you.
Thank you. In the middle.
It's very difficult to go after that. Vanessa Emenkoli from ENCA. Ministers, of course, the 30th of June now having passed, there's still some tensions on the ground. I think my question is, what assurances do South Africans have now that it's not just going to be business as usual, that their concerns are going to be dealt with when it comes to the migration crisis in the country? Also, scenes on the ground, we have seen some very violent scenes when it comes to those, having weapons, traditional weapons, but also scenes where families were removed from their homes. Will there be any consequences, and what sort of consequences will there be for those who have acted violently during these demonstrations? And also for Home Affairs officials who have participated in this illegal migration crisis, who've taken bribes, who've been part of the problem, what's the consequence management moving forward there? Also on the 600 million rand that had been spent on today, if you could take South Africans into your confidence, give us a breakdown of exactly how that money was spent.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the lengthy questions that are quite important, that they represent what maybe some people might want to know. Definitely, the government is here, late at night. I'm not sure ministers will be starting. We will invite Professor Kachali, Minister of the Police.
Thank you, Mr. Beloy. Greetings to Minister Kubai, Mr. Nshaveni, and DG Baleni. Let me see. There were lots of questions. On the issue of traditional weapons, the Constitution protects the right to assemble peacefully and unarmed. And the legislation governing protest action makes it very clear that illegal weapons during a demonstration are unlawful. And the police are required to enforce the law. There are those in our community who consider certain kinds of instruments to be parts of their identity. So that introduces a question that needs a conversation in our society. On the one hand, the law is very clear, but we have to have a conversation with those who believe that the carrying of certain kinds of instruments should be protected by the law. And there are situations in which the police, especially in volatile situations, will exercise prudence and restraint. And they did that today. Demonstrations occurred in many parts of the country. They were almost all peaceful. There were no clashes between the police and demonstrators, which I'm pleased about. Where clashes occurred in Yeovil, for instance, those clashes were between different parts of our society. So the police did extremely well today, enforcing the law with restraint. Overnight and in the weeks ahead, we will continue to exercise vigilance. I've taken note of statements that were made that these marches will continue each Thursday until the next election, local government election. That suggests to me that there are some involved in mobilizing sentiment around the grievances that are genuine, that there is a political dimension, that this may be part of a project to mobilize politically as a lead up to the local government election. And that suggests that this is not just about illegal immigration. And I think it must become clear in the days and weeks ahead by addressing questions to those who are making these statements about their political project. So there's a genuine grievance, but there also appears to be a political agenda. We have, as government, emphasized the unity of our people, that we address the grievances, the genuine grievances around illegal immigration as a democratic society through a conversation between our people and our government. We are committed, under the leadership of Minister Kubai and this IMC, to address the issues, the important issues concerning illegal immigration. So there has to be a conversation in our society going forward, a productive one aimed at building a consensus around this issue. And to the extent that there are fractures and divisions in our society on this matter, that renders our country vulnerable to other forms of manipulation. So I think government is correct to emphasize the importance of unity, cohesion, and consensus on this matter. I will address to the question of criminality. We have been consistent in our message that we're going to enforce the laws relating to immigration and irregular migration. We are going to enforce the law against criminal conduct. And I think you can expect to see after June the 30th, action being taken by the police to ensure that those who are guilty of incitement and other forms of criminality will be arrested and prosecuted. The conversation I'm having with the police is that that form of consequence management is particularly important. Now on the issue of costs, let me clarify. Any special operation, any police operation, like Chanele, for instance, dealing with illegal migration, an increased mobilization of policemen and resources across the country, as we've seen. Costs money. We have to pay overtime. We have to accommodate police officers across the country. All of that costs money. There's no additional budget for these costs. And these are not once-off costs, 600 million spent on one day on one set of operations, on the June the 30th. But I think our people have to understand that when there are periods of instability and threats of shutdowns and so forth, the right thing to do by the police is to take preventative action and to be prepared to make the resources available for maintaining peace and security in the country. And we've seen the value of that today, haven't we? There was lots of anxiety in our society that we're going to have a repeat of July 21. That hasn't happened. In a moment of heightened mobilization, the police across the country, in all provinces, in all localities, have been able to prevent violence and to maintain the peace. So I think that that's a plus. South Africa has had a good day today, and I'm hoping that we can maintain the peace in the weeks and months ahead as we lead up to the local government elections. We have already seen in the last registration weekend killings of councillors and so forth. So the police are going to be, their responsibility is to maintain peace and order in this period. We are not looking at June the 30th as an arbitrary deadline. Our work lies ahead of us, and our commitment is to maintain the peace in this country, to create an environment in which the conversation between the government and the people can continue around the important issues and challenges that our people face. Chair, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I would invite Minister in the Presidency, Minister Kombozo Nchaveni.
Thank you, Mr. Baloyi. Thank you to members of the media for the questions, and to my colleague, Minister Kachalia, for opening the response line. On the question of whether the notice that there will be weekly demonstrations, whether we are threatened or we are worried about that, we are not worried, because there have been demonstrations actually every day since the beginning of June. You may not have been following them, but there have been demonstrations all over. And we've been making sure that those demonstrations are safe and those demonstrations are peaceful. Where there was interventions needed, the law enforcement agencies and the security infrastructure intervened. On the issue of how we're going to maintain social cohesion, we've had, as government, the President has had the foresight of accepting the proposal of hosting a national dialogue. And the importance of that national dialogue is that South Africans needed to converse with each other, converse about their challenges, but also converse to know each other. And this current situation we are confronted with, of the protest against illegal immigration, it's in line with that conversation. Ourselves at cabinet level, we have had 5 iterations around illegal immigration in the country. The IMC, by the way, just to put it on record, it was not started now in June. The IMC was established in March, in the cabinet meeting of March. And we had to do preparatory work to make sure that the policy gaps are being addressed, identify those gaps, and other work that have been done, and also build up into the work of the previous IMC. There was an IMC that dealt with immigration issues, that led up also towards the establishment of the BMA, but also towards the first white paper on immigration and the other interventions that have been made. You will recall when we had to make an intervention around foodborne diseases in the country. That part of the stream in that IMC included the stream that dealt with immigration and illegal immigration in particular. So, but it's part of the conversations that South Africans must have with each other to say, if government fixes not only the border gate, but also fixes the borderline, puts the laws in place, what about the South Africans who continue to host illegal or undocumented foreign nationals in their homes and choose to pick up rent of 2,000 rands for a spaza shop with the risk of all the unsafe health challenges? We are building up the work on health inspectors, and we are building up that capacity at municipalities so that those can be done. We are also building up capacity to enforce bylaws in municipalities. You have seen in the cities of Johannesburg, they've been very consistent in enforcing bylaws to make sure that our areas are clean, but also we do not have things that are, activities that are illegal in the areas, including people that are undocumented. And is a part of also strengthening the government coordination in working in this place. You have asked that you have seen the full deployment of the law enforcement, what makes us fail to deploy to make sure South Africa is safe. You will recall during the State of the Nation address, when the President was addressing, he called on the security cluster, which is chaired by Minister Kubai, to say we must work strongly to deal with issues of crime, and not just crime, and organized crime in particular, that continues to make our communities unsafe. And he spoke about the deployment of technology to improve security in that cluster. And this is part, what you are seeing is part of the work that is being done, that deployment. That's why even in the build-up to the 30th of June, we assured you that the country will be safe. There's not going to be a shutdown, there's not going to be intimidations, and you doubted us. And there were marches in between, as I've said, but they were peaceful, and everybody abided by the rule of law. You've asked the question of whether there's a third force behind the protest. Our responsibility as the government is to ensure that South Africa is peaceful. What is behind measures that threatens the peace of South Africa is for us to confront and deal with decisively. And if we come here and say this is what is threatening the peace of South Africa, you will do like the other time when I released the national intelligence priorities. You were threatened and worried. Leave that to the intelligence structures and the security cluster, and just appreciate that your government is able to make sure that there is law and order in the country, and will continue to work to ensure that we also eradicate situations of unsafe communities and criminality. Thank you. Over to you, Minister Kubai.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I think the first one I want to speak to is in relation to the meeting of the President with the gentleman, as Samkelo says. Firstly, as the IMC, we did announce that we interact with various stakeholders, we engage various stakeholders, and when we receive a request, we respond to the request. So a request was received for the President to engage with the representative of the organization, and it was up to the delegation to decide who arrives and who do. With all the stakeholders, we don't tell them, bring so-and-so, don't bring so-and-so. We receive a request. We received a request from an NGO. As we finished meeting with them, the following day they took us to court. So we don't say these people disagree with us, these people agree with us, we'll meet with this one, we'll not meet with this one. So we meet with everybody as long as we receive, either we identify the individuals or the organization as a critical stakeholder for us to engage, or they approach us, and then we look in terms of government who is suitable or who at that point will engage with those. In terms of the issues that are being dealt with, the confusion, I think there is a need for us to work more in terms of social cohesion, as Minister Chabeni has said. I have seen a video that talks to a lady who says that they've been attacked because they are Tsonga speaking. That's in Germiston. It's really unfortunate that we still find a situation whereby South Africans are forgetting that we are a nation diverse, as we are, with all our languages in terms of our difference. And we want to continue to encourage everybody to understand that we are a diverse society. There's no place for either discrimination, for any form of discrimination, for any form of segregation for anyone who is within the border. So it is regrettable that there would be individuals who feel unsafe while they are South Africans themselves because they are not known by particular individuals. Colleagues have answered quite a number of issues. I think the assurance that we can give to the public is that the IMC work continues. On Thursday, as we previously announced, we've got an oversight of the work led by Minister Motshekga. The IMC will meet on Friday again, look at the work that has been done, receive reports from work streams. The law enforcement area is work stream 1. So we still have other 6 work streams that we are working on, that regularly they must report, and so that we can continue the work. This is not a work that ends today, as we've previously said, and this is not the work that was meant for today. The assurance to South Africans is that we have identified this area, and the President has given us an instruction to do the work and report regularly. So until the head of state comes and addresses the nation and say, I believe that the work has been done, we've been able to implement, or the team has been able to implement what he has given us an assurance or instructions to do has been done, we'll be able to say we are done. But for now, we are not yet done. On the issue of Home Affairs officials, you'd remember that SIU together with Home Affairs released a report in terms of the systematic corruption within Home Affairs and also the officials that are implicated. I think let's again urge South Africans, those who have information of further bribes that are happening, please share with the state so that action can be taken. We have seen individuals being taken through courts. We have seen individuals being dismissed, but even including in terms of the identification and documents that have been issued irregularly or through corrupt means have been cancelled. So if there's anyone who has further information on what we need to do as the state in that area so that we can be alerted. But dealing with corruption within society is a two-way. Society as well must not go and seek corrupt activities and pay officials, while we are saying, if an official asks for a bribe, please report that person. It's your responsibility in terms of PRECA laws. I wanted to support Minister Kachalia because the issue of the 600 has been going on, and I think it has been misunderstood. For example, when it's festive season, law enforcement agencies deploys across the country to ensure that there is enough capacity on the ground for that period. Again, you would have seen, even in Easter weekends, you have that. So the work and what he had alluded to, it's for subs, but it's not only for a day. Let's appeal to South Africans. And it's not only a special allocation. So you'd remember that Minister of Finance long presented budget. So there's no additional budget, there's no specific budget to deal with, because South Africans are coining it, that government is putting 600 million to fight us. There's no government that is fighting South Africans. That's the first thing. There's no government that is putting 600 million to fight South Africans. Government, as it's required, is required to do law and order in the country at all times. And various work will be prescribed in different times and for different categories. But what has been the message to us as government, and that as the IMC, when we did this work, we did everything we reflected upon, was the instruction. Many of us were in cabinet when July 21 happened. I was Minister of Tourism. I was the chair of the economic cluster in government. The message was very clear from South Africans that July 21 must not happen again. And we came out, the President assured the nation that we will ensure that there's law and order, we'll ensure that we protect you, And that's what has happened today. And will continue. That's why the net joins will brief you tomorrow with specifics of incidents, what has happened. Those details, you'll get them from the operational people, not from us. They will give you where has happened what, how many people have arrested, how many people have done this. They will give you all those details tomorrow. Ours tonight was to say, because we made a call to South Africans to work with us, to collaborate with us, but to ensure that we protest in a peaceful manner. And we felt it important as the IMC to say, as the night ends, as activities and people return to their homes, as marches ended, we needed to come and say thank you to the South Africans for heeding the call, for working with us as partners, not only South Africans, but various organizations, but also to thank the law enforcement agencies, the men and women in uniform who've gone out to ensure that we can build the trust that many people were starting to lose in the state, but also defend the integrity of the Republic. And that's the intention was for this evening's briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, ministers. I'm also mindful of the time. July didn't happen. Allow me to then invite questions. Minister, we have 8 questions, but I'll request that they be read on the record, all of them. Some of those questions I think have been responded to. Others will feature, I think, in the briefing by net joins that Minister have just told us. Vanessa, take us through the questions. And I see there are burning hands. I'll come to them.
From ENCA. Migrants awaiting verification and repatriation outside the Messina Home Affairs officers don't have ablution facilities and haven't been out here for more than 2 nights. They're compelled to hide behind walls and in corners out in the open when responding to the call of nature. Why are these people subjected to this indignity? Danzo from Bloomberg. May we please have an update on how many arrests were made related to the anti-migrant marches today and in which part of the country? Hadra Amaji from Business Day. The March and March demonstrations today are over, but as people disperse, will there still be a strong showing of police visibility to prevent mobs from looting? What has been the role of the SANDF today? There are reports that the army have been deployed to Joburg this afternoon. Is this true? Nazir from the Lodium Sun. It seems that the repatriation process by government was not done according to basic human rights. Reports suggest that many of the illegal foreigners waiting to be processed at the SA side of the borders have been left hungry and poor, with religious bodies now intervening. Also, it is clear that the protest against illegal foreigners is going to be long, drawn, and ongoing. Is government, including the police, prepared for this? And is there an additional budget proposed for quelling the ongoing protest, especially given that the police apparently budgeted for 600 million for today's protest march? Kayleen Pillay from the Witness. Can government provide clear timelines and measurable targets for identifying, processing, and deporting undocumented foreign nationals? What steps are being taken to tackle corruption within immigration, border, and law enforcement systems that may be enabling illegal entry or fraudulent documentation? Letokonolele Hana from Fullview has 3 questions. Anti-immigration groups say government has not presented a comprehensive plan to deal with migration, and the marches will continue. What is government's response? Was the mission accomplished for government in dealing with the marches today? Why does the anger keep rising for the immigrants when every metric points to the
gain trust of South Africans. Cindy Zotikabati from the Helping Network. With weekly Thursday marches now planned, as indicated by leadership of March and March, what's government's actual engagement plan and who defines when the issue is dealt with? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ministers. Allow me to just take also the follow-up questions in the House so that as we go to the responses, we then even close the brief we adjourn. Let me take the hand. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Minister. Just Veronica Mafaledi here from the newsroom. I know you mentioned that networks will give us the details of the incidents tomorrow, but we're seeing now as night falls that there is violence in Mpumalanga, rubber bullets allegedly now being shot at protesters. We also know that there was reported looting in Claremont in KZN. Just the question I have is, who should take responsibility for this? Because organizers at this point are sitting in the comfort of their homes right now. And all along, I think the fear and anxiety that the minister spoke about was exactly that, to say, once this discourse has been put out in the public, how do you contain it, given what we are seeing coming out of those two provinces this evening?
Thank you very much. The last question.
Are there any plans to revisit the Constitution, in particular the preamble, and everywhere else where it speaks about rights, it's quite vague, so there's no way where it discriminates against the person because they are in the country unlawfully, and I think that inadvertently places significant obligations on the government of South Africa towards immigrants, including those that are in the country unlawfully. And while dealing with that, also touch on the conventions that many of them that South Africa signed voluntarily, that also put obligations on the state to care for migrants once they're in the country. And kindly explain in the simplest terms as to how does this thing of being admitted as a refugee work? Say I arrive at Great Bridge from Tanzania, Malawi, do I get sent to Maravastad? That is the impression that I'm having, and I stand to be corrected, to go and apply there with the expectation that I'll return myself should my application be rejected. How does it work? Don't we have a system where if your application is rejected, the person can simply be blocked at the port of entry from getting into the country? And finally, are we ever going to see the government taking a more hardline approach towards its counterparts, in particular the governments of these two West African countries, Nigeria and Ghana, for their rhetoric? Because I don't think they are doing much to assist even in the exercise of repatriation that you are busy with. What we see them doing is taking small isolated incidents or even incidents that never took place at all to say 4 Nigerians have been killed by South Africans as part of xenophobia. I don't think that is helping the situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Vanessa, read that last question that I see there on the record.
It's a question from Peter Lemay from Prime News. Does government know the total number of undocumented? Does the government know the total number of undocumented individuals in the country, and by when is government planning to repatriate all of them?
Thank you very much. We have a listening government. We have an accountable government. We have a government that works with its people. Therefore, let me invite the government to give the feedback from what the people are asking government.
Thank you for the questions. So as Minister Kubai pointed out, there will be a detailed briefing by the Nat Joints tomorrow on the number of arrests and so forth. But the last figures that were given to me this evening were that 361 undocumented migrants were arrested today. There were 11 arrests for looting or attempted looting, 4 for drug-related offenses, and 291 for common law crimes. We had a good day. There was a lot of expectation of a repeat of July 21. That didn't happen. We had peaceful protests and effective law enforcement across the country. This evening, we will maintain vigilance and operational preparedness, as we will do in the months ahead, leading particularly to the local government election. So focus was never just on June the 30th. As Minister Chaveni was also pointing out, we have an ongoing responsibility to protect our people, to fight crime, and we're doing that. But where necessary, we will increase mobilization of the police service and other law enforcement agencies to maintain safety and security. I can indicate that the Army was deployed on a contingency basis. It was largely unnecessary, but we were prepared to deploy the Army when necessary. And in fact, there was a limited mobilization in Yeoville or parts of Johannesburg when the situation was getting out of control, but the police were able to manage the situation. So there were many questions along this line, like what's going to happen after June the 30th? What's going to happen this evening? There may well be sporadic incidents of violence, but the police are not being demobilized. They are present to deal with any eventuality, as I have kept saying before in the lead up to June the 30th. And I think you can see that we were serious about the claim that we were making, that we expected June the 30th to be a normal day. And a normal day does not exclude legitimate expressions of our constitutional rights to express our grievances. Let me just say this about the moment we're in when it comes to immigration law and policy. Minister Kubai will deal with some of the specific questions. We are in a moment in our country when we need to build a consensus between the government and our people around immigration law and policy. There can be no debate about that. We understand the message that we're getting from our society and our people. The IMC that was established in March is engaged precisely in that work. As Minister Kubai is indicating, law enforcement is only one stream of work. There are 6 other streams of work, looking precisely, comprehensively at immigration law and policy. Where changes need to be made, they will be made. The role of the police and law enforcement agencies is to create an environment where that engagement can take place, where that conversation can take place. That conversation between the South African citizenry and the government, and the conversation that we also have to have with our continent, with other governments and peoples in our continent, on the question, what are the terms upon which immigration can occur into a sovereign country, like South Africa, like Botswana, like Ghana, like Nigeria. We have to be able to have that conversation, and I concur with the observation that's been made that that conversation has been very simplistic, very one-sided. This government represents the people of this country, and we will not hesitate to represent our people in the conversation that we are having with our sister countries and peoples across the continent, with whom we have to have productive relations, constructive relations of trade, also constructive relations in the area of security, which includes migration. And I hope that post-June the 30th, that we're going to shift gear. This conversation doesn't have to take place in an environment of intimidation, of violence, of division. We are ready to engage, to have a conversation which we believe is necessary, a respectful conversation about how to take the country forward on its many challenges, including immigration. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe let me start on the last point that Minister Kachalia has ended on. As South Africa, we've always remained ready to deal with the issue of immigration, not only in South Africa, but in the region of SADC, but also in the continent of Africa. And we are ready to discuss both the pull and the push factors that makes us the host country of many people wherein ordinarily we should not be hosting them. You also be aware that on Friday there was a SACU summit for heads of stations, because we understand that part of the pull factor into South Africa is its economic development. And therefore we need to work with the sister countries across the region of SADC, within the continent of Africa, to make sure that the whole region and the whole continent is developed. We had committed ourselves, like all member states of the African Union, on Agenda 2063 of silencing the gun and ensuring economic prosperity of Africa. We have championed infrastructure development in the continent as a country under the AU missions. We remain the champion of healthy African continent. That's why we are seized not only with just messages of support on the issue around Ebola. We have also contributed financially. We are seized with developing our vaccine manufacturing capability to make sure that the African continent is healthy. As a country, we have led the development of the critical mineral strategy for the continent to make sure that Africa no longer becomes the exporters of dust and rocks, but we export products manufactured in this continent. Because it's only when you've got economic prosperity that this unregulated immigration will stop. But also we appreciate the political instabilities in the countries within the region. It's for that reason that in 2024, when our electoral outcomes were difficult, the ANC had to take the position of saying, we are going to accept the outcomes as it is, and we are going to make sure we prioritize the interest of this country to ensure political stability of our country. And we call other sister countries in the region to do the same. Because when there's political stability, there will be economic prosperity. So we are ready to have those conversations. And we also appreciate that South Africans cannot carry the burden of their country being stable. And there are those who will say, oh, you benefited from the hospitality of your sister countries during your fight against apartheid. Yes, we benefited. You tell us that it's more than 30 years, so we cannot go back and complain about apartheid and say the the difficulties of service delivery are inherent. Why is the same conversation not being asked? It's more than 30 years that the South African government, the apartheid government, has ended even destabilizing countries of the African region. Why are they not being asked to ensure their own political stability? There's no apartheid government that is destabilizing any country now. 32 years. So we must all take responsibility of ensuring political stability in our own countries, and we must work together collectively to ensure economic prosperity of the African continent. There's no single country that will carry the burden of others, because that country will itself collapse. It is for that reason that South Africa were committed to supporting the initiatives in Angola on the development of the Lobito corridor. We have mobilized our South African investment companies to make sure that we support the development of the Lobito corridor. There's no country in the West or in the East that can have the interest of developing the African continent more than South Africa. And we must show it by investments in our own, through our own companies. And I know we are threatened to say, yes, when South Africans complain about things that they are unhappy about, we said we are going to close down South African companies in those countries. It's like cutting your nose to spike your own face. Because those companies are not there for South Africa, they are there for the development of those countries. And we must all commit to that economic development. We have committed that we are not going to be held hostage by anyone, we are not going to be blackmailed, we are committed to the development of South Africa, SADC, and the African continent, and then the rest of the world. Because a better South Africa, a better Africa, a better world. That's what drives our foreign policy and our economic development strategy. So the conversations about immigration, we must discuss them in their full context of the pull and the push factors. And we are not tolerating fake news. We have engaged with the social media partners, companies who are operating in South Africa, to say anybody who publish fake news to discredit the reputation of the government of South Africa, the people of South Africa, will have to live with the consequences. The fact that we are a democratic country does not give us rights to protect our national interests. We are happy that all the social media platforms have been playing along. There was a question about whether the soldiers will reinforce. That's why Nigerians is responding tomorrow. We are continue to do, as Minister Kachalia has done, monitoring, but reinforcements. You know, they have deployed, already the soldiers were deployed in Johannesburg in the later evening, because you need the higher level of skills, you know. Sorry, Minister Kachalia, sorry. You need the higher level of resilience when in the shadow of darkness. They are going to deploy in Durban to make sure that we keep the peace. There are no opportunist criminals that are going to be given room to operate. We accepted that South Africans have genuine grievances, and we allow them to march. And we express that marching in South Africa is a right. But there's no opportunistic criminality that will be allowed. My boss here will kill me if I don't stick to what I'm told I must respond to. There was a question of whether can we provide clear timelines and measurable targets for identifying, processing, and deporting undocumented foreign nationals. We have indicated that South Africa has laws of how foreign nationals are treated. The undocumented one, how do we go about to identify them and deporting them? And there is process that is described by law. If I come here and I say, we are going to deport, I almost said 40 vendors, and I was going to be in trouble, Minister. If I say we're going to deport X number of nationalities who are undocumented, how do we know that number because they're undocumented? We can't deal with that. We can't come and say this is the number. They're undocumented. If we had the numbers, they would be documented. That's why we account for asylum seekers and refugees and those with visas and special permits. The undocumented we cannot account for, we don't account for. So as we find them, as we enforce our bylaws, as we do the labor inspections, we'll make sure that they are deported. We must clarify that the process of reparations is being done by their home countries. They are the ones who say they want their own nationals. And because South Africa is a country with laws, we said when they leave, your national leaves, we need to register them. That's why we're able to account to say how many had papers, how many did not have papers. You know, we explained that Malawi was issuing mass passports, what do you call it, a group passports, because some of them, they did not have those papers. It's only then that we can account, we can give you from the IMC level progress report of saying how many undocumented foreign nationals have been processed per nationality for a particular period of time. Today, as Minister Kubai has explained, we did not come to provide that detail. We came to thank South Africans for exercising their rights together with their responsibilities of making sure that we do not break down South Africa. Related to that question is that, are we setting a deadline of mass deportations? We have never operated on that level. We have told you that even the 30th of June deadline was never a government deadline. We continue to work as we committed to the President as an IMC in line with the comprehensive action plan that was announced by the President with 5 pillars. There's a question of saying, has government accomplished its mission for dealing with the marchers today? Government was never dealing with the marchers today. Government was making sure the marches are peaceful and within the prescribes of the law. South Africans, as we have articulated, they have a right, constitutional right to protest. And that right cannot be taken away by anyone. But when you exercise your right, you also exercise your responsibility. And that's what we had to do. And we appreciate that the organizers of the marches across France have made sure they've kept to their responsibilities. And we've committed that we'll make sure law enforcement deal with those opportunistic criminals who have no interest of the Republic at heart. And the question of whether we are will ever end trust of South Africans. What we like about South Africans is that South Africans are objective people, and they are fair people, and they are reasonable people. Even in instances where there's mob psychology, South Africans tend to reason, to say, what does this really mean and what does it really imply? When South Africans see tangible improvements in their communities, where there will not be undocumented foreign nationals and the numbers will be reducing significantly, South Africans will say, yes, government is moving. When South Africans see the consistent implementation of the comprehensive action plan as announced by the President, South Africans will say government is working. South Africans, when they see that what they've complained about criminality in their communities is being addressed, South Africans will say the government is taking us seriously in the fight against crime. And we continue to say the fight against crime is a collective fight of government and society and communities. You are the eyes and ears of government, and you are the first responders. You are the ones who can alert us of criminals and criminality. You are the ones who can form community neighborhood watches and community policing forums and work with us to make sure we eradicate criminality in our society. So from where we are, as per the commitment of the chairperson of the IMC, Minister Kubai, we'll continue to work as the IMC to make sure that we achieve the targets as set out in the 5 pillars of the comprehensive action plan. Minister Kubai will address the outstanding issues that deals with the humanitarian side of issues. She's got the the softer touch.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Let me start with the issues. I think all others have been raised. Gaugelo asked about the review of the Constitution and talks about the preamble. Gaugelo just want to reflect. The preamble actually reaffirms South Africa, our commitment, our sovereignty, but also that the government is based on the will of the people. In this celebrating 30 years of our Constitution, where we are calling that it's one Constitution, one nation, and time for us to reflect, to renew, and recommit ourselves to the values of the democratic Constitution. I don't think our Constitution, in the manner that you are saying, does give way for illegality in the country, because it emphasizes that everything should be done within the law. And therefore, upholds, it becomes the pillar and the foundation of our legislative framework in the country and the rule of law. But you spoke about, again, the issue of conventions, which I do want to agree with you, that there's been issues and consistent, and I think Minister Moswalidi, at the time he was Minister of Home Affairs, would have alluded to some of the conventions, but also the legal framework that would have been. If you look at our program and what we have committed to the nation, we've got a stream that works on legislative and policy review, where we are looking at what are the constraints in the legislative and policy environment that are making us not to be able to deal effectively with the matters of migration. And we consistently review that. We will announce on those, but we have made commitments on several as well, whether it's relation to the SADC protocol in terms of exchange of prisoners, the legislative development under Department of Labor that would have reviewed, but we've also said under social services, there is a need for us to analyze our legislative review, but also look at the policies and see where are the gaps and what do we need to address in that area. So I want to assure you that it does need for us to look at those areas. It's not that we are blindsided, but I think in the manner that you said on the Constitution, I guess it might give a wrong impression. I don't think the Constitution is prohibitive for government to deal with issues of migration, and it doesn't call for the review, unless maybe later you can share with us, or if anyone does feel that there is clauses that needs review, will be willing to look at them. And then I'm going to deal with the issue of the refugee together with what I think a couple of colleagues who are calling for, starting with Moloto, about what is happening in Musina. We announced last week, Friday, that we are relocating our temporary repatriation processing center to Musina. And I can assure you we're doing this in the most dignified and humanitarian way. And I'll explain. We've been able to move the people, and in the process, as they were driving or traveling, particularly those that were under our watch or they have presented themselves to the state in Durban, they were provided with water and food as they traveled to Musina. Upon their arrival, if you look at the pictures as we are there, we've posted them on our social media. You see there are packages of food there that were put aside that were provided. So it's not correct that we've not provided them with food nor water. But again, in the site that we have established, there are sanitation facilities that we've put. And I must say, our understanding is that government does not do everything alone. There seems to be a suggestion that when government partners with private sector, partners with civil society, in dealing with the situation, it's almost like government is abdicating its responsibilities. I must say, throughout the process, there's been NGOs, as I say, we've been having meetings. There have been NGOs that approached us, asked us how are we dealing with the matter, whether they would need assurances of particular areas, but others will say, would like to lend a hand. For example, I'd like to appreciate the team that we worked with in KZN. These are NGOs that throughout that particular process in Durban, they provided meals to those individuals who were there under processing, including our teams. There were NGOs that were there providing a meal in the morning, providing a meal in the afternoon and in the evening. They were there providing mothers with necessities and children with amenities. And this is partnership that we appreciated. Similarly, you would have seen we had your medical teams who were volunteering on site, not only for the foreign nationals who were being repatriated, but also for our teams who were on site to receive care and support on site. So we appreciate that support. And when we moved to Musina, the teams then, those NGOs reached out, including others, like you are saying, the church. You would have seen the statement by SACC, South African Council of Churches. We met with them. The delegation was led by Minister Motshekga. And in the meeting, they asked, what can they help? They asked for where do the buses as they go stop? Can we be able to provide whatever that we can provide, whether it's water, whether it's... And this is the Ubuntu that we call for and the Ubuntu that is shown. In the most times where it's difficult, South Africans are able to come together and be able to deal with the situation. So those NGOs, many of them have moved from even Durban to come to Musina, to come and assist us, and they volunteered to support us. So the Musina side actually is up. TM Gushelo has been operating there the whole day today, supported by the deployment that the DG has done. And I understand Minister McPherson is actually on the road, on the way there, to be able to be there full-time tomorrow to ensure that the processing fast tracks. Minister Chris has been supporting the teams through ensuring that facilitation of the buses and the work is unlocked. So we work as a team. We work in a collaborative manner to ensure that the work is done properly and we can be able to process the individuals. We do believe that in the manner that we've been doing, when we were building, we got the people to be processed at the refugee center that is in Musina. And we went there, we could see the buses arrived from everywhere, and then we received. What I need to explain is that the buses, others that arrived, were not buses that we had the numbers of. So people would come on their own because they've heard that we've got the repatriation. So it's either the embassies or business organizations, other business individuals have gone out to say we are supporting the following individuals, and you would have seen the buses. Not all the buses that would have been where we would be involved, but they would be supported from business people in those countries where they are supporting individuals. What we have said and asked is that they must communicate with us so that we work together and they are received. As we speak now in that processing center, we have more than 5,000 that have arrived. Actually, we're looking at about 1,000, but the number has grown. And we are processing them. And we do believe, because the space is bigger, we'll be able to fast track and process quite a number of people at a go. Just to highlight that the work continues and there is dignity in what we are doing. There are social amenities in terms of the work that we are doing. There was a bit of a concern that the buses were dropping people on the streets and not inside the facilities, and that was addressed. But it's because the buses were meant, for example, to move from Cape Town and to move from Durban to drop off at Musina for processing. Those buses do not have permits for cross-border, so they needed to be able to do that cross-border processing. So that they needed to do to have the cross-border permits, and they didn't have so. But they were not intended to be the ones that crosses the border. They are meant to take us straight to take the individual straight to the processing center. So I can assure South Africans, I can assure all of you that the facility actually gives dignity. We'll share the pictures on our social media so that we can see that is not correct what is being communicated, that there are no toilets, they are not, they are there in terms of the work. I thought that is important for me as the chair to give assurance. The issue of refugee application, if you look at the statement by the president has alluded that we will work in a progressive manner to move the refugee centers from inland to the borders, starting with the one in Pretoria, so that it can move to the border. So that work will be done. How it's happening, it's various stages. You apply, you arrive, you apply that I'm a refugee or I'm an asylum seeker, and then you explain your condition. They will do assessment. There are various processes that are involved by Home Affairs. When you are rejected, then you get to be notified that you are rejected. And And there was previously, before the court judgment, in terms of court, constitutional court, a person could reapply and reapply while they were still in the country. Now that court judgment that was issued early this year has helped government, because it says once it's rejected, the person then can exit. Because previously the people could be rejected and they say that they are reapplying or they are appealing. And when they appeal, you had no legal right to deport them. So that's what the process was. We've got two processes under Home Affairs. It's the deportation and the repatriation. The deportation is the one where, for example, police will do Operation Chanyela, or Home Affairs inspectors will pick up, or even if in labor, will pick up. These are foreign nationals without documents. They get processed, arrested, they get processed through court. It's the law, they have to go through court, and then after that they are sent to Lindela. And when they are in Lindela, their embassies have to come and confirm that these are their nationalities, and after that then they are deported. That is done at the expense of the state. When we do repatriation, it's embassies where they call for their individual to leave for whatever reason, and when they are done, then they process, they get processed, identified. And I must say to the nation, we take fingerprints to ensure that the individuals that we are repatriating are not people who have committed crimes within the Republic and therefore living without answering. So fingerprints are taken, records are done by Home Affairs, so that if they are here illegal as well, they can be declared undesirable. What does that mean? Undesirable, it means that they will not be able to enter, even when they have passports or anywhere, enter the Republic for the 5 years coming. Means they are almost suspended from entry into South Africa. That is also important. And when we finish as the process, then the embassy will do their what we call a bulk passport with all their names, and put them in the bus with that documentation to be able to transport into the other country. So I thought I should explain, because there's somebody who asked us to explain this in detail. What does it mean if the process is done? So I think I've answered all the questions, Minister Ntshavheni and Minister Kachali. I think all others have been explained. Colleagues, just as I conclude, I want to say, organizers of March, you know, sometimes it can be hard to be in government, because you can say something over and over again and people don't believe it. And somebody comes and says exactly what you've been saying, and then people clap hands. Now, I want to reiterate, we have issued a government response plan. And I can tell you definitely, sitting here, that all the issues that the marchers are raising with us are actually incorporated in the plan of response. So I don't understand when they say we are not responding. They talk about borders porous. We respond in terms of our work streams. Not only did we do work stream, we have actually given a champion who's Minister Motshekga to be able to deal with that area. It's borderline, it's border upgrading, it's infrastructure, it's all technology and everything else. Now, we are responding to those. We are told that enforcement of our migration, we are doing that. That's why we are deporting people. Now, it's not correct to say we have not responded. We have responded. When we met with them, they were the first team that JCPS met with. Others did not listen. They joined the meeting. Others were virtual. Others were physical. They spoke. When they finished speaking, because we gave them to speak, when they finished speaking, they left. So they never even heard us. I remember one person left as we were about to respond and stood outside and said they have not said anything, when they do not even listen to us. Now, I am saying to South Africans, please listen, look at our statements that we are issuing. You will see that we have listened to your issues. The issue of spaza shops, South Africans are raising them. It's there in the work streams to be responded to. South Africans have said, these prisoners who are foreign nationals who are spending money of government and our money, they must go. We are responding to that and giving, for example, a time frame to say, Department of Correctional Services, by this time, we want you to have actually approved the SADC protocol and get it approved by Cabinet and Parliament so that we can implement. They have said to us, we are seeing Uber drivers, we are seeing the delivery people. They are everywhere, they are taking our jobs. We've responded by saying, we've noticed the TRN has made it possible for them. Therefore, Minister Chrissy reviewed the TRN. So I'm not so sure what have they said that we have not listened to. As Prawil was saying, we are the government that listens. So if you take time, members of the society, don't be misled. Take time to look at what we are proposing, what we are accounting for, the media statements that we'll be responding to. You will see that we actually addressing systematically, area by area, that has been raised by South Africans. And we are hoping by this process, you'll be able to believe our genuineness, you'll be able to believe our commitment, because we do believe that this is a genuine issue that must be addressed, and the President has given us that mandate. So we'll continue to do our work, we'll continue to report. We've committed. Others were doubtful that we'll come back for the media briefings. And we've been consistent in doing the media briefings because we believe it's a form of accountability, not to ourselves, not only to the President, but to the nation on what they have raised with us as the government of the people, by the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ministers. We have a briefing tonight on the 30th of June, responding to what was raised. If somebody goes out and say we haven't spoken as government, that is disinformation. The person is falsely and misleading the public. So, Minister, we will make sure that misinformation and disinformation are corrected. This brings us to the end of this briefing, and thank you very much. The briefing is adjourned.